Hey everyone, Lance from CinematicGalaxy back again, and now I'm here to review Toy Story 2, the 1999 sequel to 1995 smash hit Toy Story. Now the interesting thing with Toy Story 2 is that it was actually originally going to be a direct-to-video film, but Pixar looked at some footage of it, and they saw that it was actually a very strong story, and they decided to make it a feature-length film, but they actually, they redid the animation and everything to make it better. Also, Pixar really went through a really hard time making this film. I think there was a deadline that they had to push for, and I think this film is honestly one of the best examples of what hard work can really do for a film, because I think they made the film that we have today. I think all of it was made in like 7 months, and I remember watching bonus features of Toy Story 2 and stuff, and the creators and stuff, the people who worked on it, they would talk about how they would literally sometimes get no sleep working on this film. They would just be working on it and they'd be staying up. There were rarely any breaks at all. Now, while Toy Story was a film that got Pixar on the map, and A Bug's Life sort of kept Pixar's place on the map, I think it was up to Toy Story 2 to be the film to make Pixar a household name like Disney. I mean, obviously Disney distributes the Pixar films, but Pixar's not really a synonym for Disney, and it's kind of something different. I would honestly say that this was the film that was either going to make or break Pixar in the eyes of the public, because we're talking about such a beloved original film. And sequels, I mean, there are some great sequels out there, but sequels are rarely as great as the original. The great sequels that we do have, like The Empire Strikes Back, or Aliens, or Terminator 2, films like that, those are rare. Believe it or not, I mean, those are rare. Those aren't very common at all. And Toy Story 2, I mean, how do you make a sequel to Toy Story, right? So I'm sure there were actually a lot of skeptical people at the time this film was released. I was a kid at the time. I was 6 years old. I wasn't really skeptical about it, but I'm sure a lot of other people were. And I still remember when this film came out. I was an idiot. I actually saw Pokemon the movie in theaters instead. But I saw, my mom bought me Toy Story 2 when it came out on VHS about a year later, because movies took longer to come out on video back then. So it was a year after this film was out in theaters that I finally saw it. Basically, the plot of Toy Story 2, it might be about a year after the first Toy Story, and all I really need to say is Woody, he starts off rescuing another toy in a yard sale, and he ends up some kind of way getting stuck outside, and this greedy toy collector, Al, steals him. So then it's up to Buzz and all the other toys to rescue him. I think Toy Story 2 is hands down one of the greatest sequels of all time. Easily. This movie is fantastic. The premise I just described about the yard sale and all that stuff, it might sound very silly when you first hear it, but there's really so much more to this movie than that. There's so many things in this movie that make it not only an excellent continuation of the first Toy Story film, but just a great standalone film in its own. You could seriously go into this film not having seen the original Toy Story and still be a huge fan of it coming out. I mean, I definitely recommend seeing it in the right order, but you could still go into it and see this film first and come away loving the story and loving the characters. And as far as the voice actors, they're all back in top form. You got Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, and then all the other toys, Don Rickles, Ham, Rex, Slinky, and all of them. And it's great because these characters, the other toys, the first film was very much kind of a buddy movie for Woody and Buzz. But this film, is a film, it's much more of an adventure road movie type of film. This time the other toys, Potato Head and all them, they get to take a much bigger part in all the action of the story, and they really get to help drive the story along even more. And that's definitely one of the best things about Toy Story 2. The animation in this film is fantastic. I mean, you can definitely watch the original Toy Story and then watch Toy Story 2, and you can see where they've advanced. You can see the advances that were made in terms of the animation. The characters are a little more fluid. There's more detail in their faces. The humans are still kind of plasticky, but again, that was the best they could do at the time. So there's really no complaints there. Randy Newman once again does the score. He does a great job. His songs in this movie are very good. There's a really emotional song called When She Loved Me that is very powerful. I have to also say, I love the way this movie opens so much. That whole scene with Buzz Lightyear, just doing all this stuff. When I first saw that scene, I was completely blown away, and I honestly thought it was really happening. And then we see us all in the video game, and I was just like, oh man. But I was glad Buzz wasn't dead, but still, I mean, that whole scene, the music, the sheer feel of it, it feels like something right out of a Star Wars film or something like that, and it's incredible. What is really so great to me about Toy Story 2 is that it does what all the greatest sequels do. It doesn't try to copy the original film. It doesn't try to just do what worked in the original film. It brings new ideas. A lot of sequels, if anybody else had made this film, or if Pixar decided to go the lazy route, they would have made Buzz a bumbling idiot like he was in the first film. But we see in this film that Buzz is a lot smarter. They kept the character development from the previous film. Woody and Buzz are best friends now. Buzz is a lot smarter than he was in the first film. He's accepted the fact that he's a toy. He's confident in himself. And that's what makes his character so great, the fact that he actually developed. They didn't regress. They didn't go back on that. He's still Buzz Lightyear. He still has his best characteristics, but he's not an idiot anymore. And also Woody. Woody's character has developed. He's not as jealous as he used to be. He's learned from his mistakes from the previous Toy Story film. He still makes some errors in this film here and there, but you can definitely see his character development from the previous film. Now, probably the most notable thing about Toy Story 2 that distinguishes it from the first film is that we have some new characters, like Wheezy the Penguin, who's in a minor kind of role, and then we have Bullseye, Jessie, Prospector, the whole Roundup gang. Basically, we see Woody finding out that he came from this old TV show back in the 50s. But yeah, anyway, as for the new characters, do I think they work in the film? Absolutely. Here's the thing. I like Bullseye. Prospector is definitely a complex character in this film, and he ends up being the villain, obviously, and, I think that works very well. And here's the thing with Jessie. Jessie is a character that I think a lot of people are mixed on. A lot of people are extremely annoyed with Jessie, and they can't stand her. And then a lot of people love Jessie, and it's just kind of mixed, really. You're either like one or the other. And to be honest, I'm kind of been a little bit of both. When I was a kid watching this film, and even sometimes now, I would see Jessie, some of the things that she does and says in this film, and I would be like, she is so annoying. I just wish she would shut up. And then we get to the scene where we find out about her past, and we find out about all that she's been through. And all of that changed. Like, literally, all my thoughts about Jessie completely changed once I found that out, because I understood why her character acted the way she did. And I cared for her. They actually gave us a reason to care for her, because she was abandoned by her previous owner. And, I love the fact that this film did that it made me care for a character that I initially kind of found to be annoying. And Jessie's not a bad character at all. I actually like her a lot more now, especially after Toy Story 3, which I'll eventually get to in my review of. She's a great role model for young girls everywhere. And she's just a really good character. And to be honest, she's really not that bad to look at either. What? You're thinking the same thing. But anyway, yeah, other than the characters, what really makes Toy Story 2 stand out, once again, is the story. The story is fantastic. And the story, what was so brilliant about it, you might have initially wondered, how do you make a sequel to Toy Story? Well, the key to that is really chronicle the life of a toy. Basically, the first Toy Story shows the toy's life at its best. Basically, the kid is very young. He loves nothing more than his toys. And it's just, you never think about the kid outgrowing you. You never think about that. And I love how this film, it brings forth the issue that eventually the kids are gonna get tired of playing the toys. They're not always gonna play with you, and it's just so well done. There's the way it's done, and it feels so effortless. But it's almost like a documentary, because it's how life really is. Now, I was 6 back when this film came out, and when this film came out, I know for a fact I used to get a lot of my toys and play with them as I watched this film. And it's just amazing. Years later, eventually I stopped playing with my toys. And, and coming back to this film, it just amazed me how spot on this movie was with its message. But I think the greatest thing about Toy Story 2 is, much like the first Toy Story film, but almost to more of a degree, it really goes beyond just, outgrowing toys. The messages of this film, I mean, it's really something that you can apply to life. Basically, in this film, Woody has to learn that I can't just sit around being scared of Andy growing up. I have to enjoy my best years with him while I can before he grows up. And I just have to stop being afraid about the future and just enjoy what I have now while I have it. That's something that every single one of us can and should apply to our lives. And it's such a powerful message that really strikes home with me, especially now that I'm older. I must say that this film is also incredibly clever, much like the original film, and it's just so funny as well. There's so many great lines in this film, and honestly, just like the first film, I can watch this film and I know all the lines. I know what the characters are going to say. There's so many great lines, great parts in this film. One of my favorite comedic parts in this film, it revolves around a new Buzz Lightyear action figure that, it has a new belt and everything, and he's just like the Buzz from the original Toy Story, where he doesn't know he's a toy and he's all delusional and everything. And there's so many funny scenes with this Buzz in the film. One of the best is when the two of them are together, and the Woody in the game, they have to figure out which one is the real Buzz. Buzz presses his helmet, and he starts, the other Buzz, the fake Buzz, starts gasping for breath, just like he did in the original Toy Story. It was just something was so great about seeing a Buzz that we know interact with the version of what he used to be, and it's so funny. All in all, Toy Story 2, I would say, is a perfect sequel. I mean, it literally does everything that a sequel to Toy Story needed to do and should have done. And I think this movie blew people away, honestly. I mean, you might find a person here and there that says, Toy Story 2 sucked. And I know a few people like that who don't like Toy Story 2 for some reason. And I asked them why, and they're never able to come up with the reason why it sucks, ever. Just, it wasn't as good as the first one. But I never hear a legitimate reason. But yeah, Toy Story 2 is a great sequel. Some people believe that it's better than the first, or they love it more than the first. I think it's just as good as the first, honestly. I don't think it's any less great. But the really nostalgic part of me, though I am nostalgic for Toy Story 2 as well, the more nostalgic part about me prefers the first film. And also the first film just has a certain freshness that the Toy Story 2 obviously can't have because it's a sequel. So while I prefer the first Toy Story, I still really love Toy Story 2. I think it's excellent, a fantastic film, and of course it's going to get an A+. I mean, seriously, this is a great film. Just so perfect. Again, I can't believe how perfect it was. I honestly remember I wanted to see Toy Story 3 immediately after Toy Story 2 ended. So anyway, guys, let me know what your favorite part of Toy Story 2 is. Mine is probably the whole ending, airplane sequence and stuff. It's just so great. Such a great way to end it that managed to be different from the first movie. But anyway, guys, stay tuned for my next few reviews. And this is Lance from Cinematic Galaxy signing off.